Hey kids, Mr. Glenn here, hope you're well. We are going to be learning about tracking our expenses. And our expenses are where we tell the computer to do certain things and it is going to do things automatically. So, like I showed you before, I tended to make a grid that looked a bit like that, and it had lots of mistakes on it. And the reason it had mistakes is because I was probably trying to use a calculator to do large sums. And so, in my quest to make sure that it is correct, I have to do a thing called formulas. And formulas, they track the expenses for me. So if I buy something extra and I add, let's say it goes from 1 to 2, I can put a number 2 inside my spreadsheet and it will automatically change all the numbers for me and do all the adding and multiplying for me. Sorry, I've got a tickle in my nose. So, my guiding question here is, can I create working formulas to track my expenses? So my expenses in my theme park are things like maintenance, to make sure that things are working properly, make sure the bins are emptied, to make sure that the trees aren't overgrown, to make sure that all the food is being delivered properly and sold properly, and there is a good experience for my customers, to make sure that it's also safe. So inside my spreadsheet, I have something that looks a little bit like this. And these are my running costs for a single day. I've got my roller coaster and my rides and my shops and my cafes and toilets and bins. And inside here, I've got all the numbers of items in my park and how much things are actually costing. In here, I've made this cell add to this cell. Now, a cell is a fancy name for a box. So on my spreadsheet, I've got a cell that looks like this, and it's $40 staffing. So I need to pay my staff just for the roller coaster, and I pay them $40 a day. My electricity and maintenance repairs for the roller coaster is $50. My running costs for one item altogether then are maintenance added to staff, which is 90. Easy peasy. I've got 3 roller coasters. You've probably got 4, 5, 6. Who knows how many you've got in your theme park? And so I need to put my data into here. I need to put my figures into there, and I've got 3. So 3 times 90 is $270. I could possibly do that in my head. So the same with my rides, my cafes, bins and trees and everything else like that. But what happens is if I take away everything and I take away my picture here of my face, you can see that my total daily running cost for one day is $974.75. So if I change this to say 10, that means I'd have to multiply this and add all these up again and add it up down here. Except I can tell the computer to do certain things for me. So the one thing I like in spreadsheets is that I'm able to go and use a thing called sum. And sum is where I can tell a particular cell to be added to another cell. This is just simply adding up. But I can also make it multiply, because I need to multiply the number of items in my park by the actual running costs. So that is actually called product. So you'll see that there's a way to write these in a cell. I'm going to show you how this is going to work in a live spreadsheet in a second. So equals product, and then I've got my cell and my cell. And this is the same for my sum as well. So in the summing up is just adding. So I've got a cell and a cell. You may notice there is something slightly different when I've got the product in there. The product, because I can add multiple cells together and I can multiply them together. In here, I've put a comma in here. I'm going to show you how that all works in a second. So, what is this going to actually look like inside my formulas, inside my tables completely? So let's go and take a quick look back into my PowerPoint. And so when I go through this, I've got my subtotals in here, and I've got my different columns. So I've got A column and B column, C, D, and my subtotals. The formulas that I've used before, equals sum, I've added A plus B, and my answer is in here. These are all the same. I'm going to show you how that works as well. The beauty of using a spreadsheet is that if you've got the same calculation, you don't have to do it many times. You do it once, and you tell each cell to do exactly the same as the one above it or the one below it. The same with my product. And so in my product, I can go and do the same thing. I'm going to move my mouse over here for a second. In my product, I've done the same thing, except this time I've gone and taken away the subtotals by equaling product and C and D this time, where I've multiplied both together. C, which is the answer in here, by D, which is the amount of things I have, and it equals product, open bracket, C, which is this column here. This could be C1, for example, times by D1. So let's go and have a look to see what this is going to look like in my spreadsheet. I was going to get my pages up. This is what you are going to end up having on your pages. I'm going to go and close my PowerPoints down for a second so you can see my mouse. There we go. So this is going to be your running costs. And so we're going to send you a sheet called running costs. And we're going to work this out by adding these together. So just like I showed you before, my sums, we're going to go and put equals, and everything starts with an equal. So as soon as I type in equals in a cell in Google Sheets, it will give me these suggestions. So I'm going to go and sum. You put capitals in if you want. You can notice that they're in capitals already. So when I put an open bracket, what that's going to do is going to think, well, which cell do you want it to start adding? So I put an open bracket here, and you can see it's waiting for something here. So over here, I'm now going to go and click onto B4, and then I'm going to go and put an add in there, and then I'm going to go and tell it to add C4 like that. You can also see that it gives us a suggested answer as well, if that's what we want, a little running total. I'm going to go and close my bracket like I showed you in that quick picture before, and I hit enter, and the answer is there. Now in your page, yours won't do this. You can see that I've already got my running totals going, but this is just an example to show you that as I start to change things inside my chart here, you can see that all my totals are starting to automatically add up for me. When we made our plan, there was a little crosshair that we used to drag things down. So I can go and grab this now and pull this down, and all the formulas will copy into every single cell for me. But it won't just add B4 and C4 together. It will add B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, and it'll add them to C5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 as well. Let's have a look. So I'm going to let go of my mouse now. And you can see that my totals are automatically multiplied for me. What I'm going to do is just take this out so my automation is off, because the next bit is going to be using product. Now in my running totals, this is in your second tab in your plan. You can see how many you've got, but I've made my notes so that I know how many I've got. It might be handy for you to do that as well. I've got in my notes 3, 8, 338. Rather convenient, isn't it? And 131 because I've gone wild with the trees. So in here, what I want to do next is go and add that product formula. Now, remember, I changed the product into yellow with, instead of a multiplying, I put a comma instead of the add for sum. So let's go and have a look to see what that looks like. Equals product, open bracket. This time I want to multiply D4, comma, by E4, like so. And you can see it gives me that running total as well in purple. And do the same thing again. I'm going to go and drag this down. And you'll notice that my subtotal, my grand total, is then done for me at the bottom. This one's done slightly different. I am adding all these together, but what I want to do here is sum them all up, equals sum, open bracket. But this time I'm going to start here. I'm going to hold down shift and click at the end number, my end subtotal. I'm going to hold down shift, click on the $32.75 like that. And you can see here is put a colon in there to tell us that it's a series. Close my brackets, $974.75. So, last thing is, as we start to make more money and understand our profit and loss, this is going to become really important, because in your working spreadsheets later, we are going to have to, or you are going to have to, change our totals for certain things and make sure that our spreadsheets are working as well, so that we can keep a track of our money and how much profit and loss we're actually making. So, same again, this spreadsheet will be in your Google Classroom as an assignment. You can come back to this video, and what I'll do right now is just very quickly put in the formulas, or the way that we write it, in here. So this is product. You can pause this and check it out, or take a screenshot if you want. And so this one is sum. Okay? As always, year 5, good luck.